Welcome to Toolcraft TV, and we have some exciting news for you guys. This is Warren September. Warren is our new employee at the store, and Warren is our new tool expert. This is so cool. So Warren, please say hello.
Hi to everyone.
So we have the domino here. This is the DF500. Why a domino over a biscuit jointer?
This type of machine is actually something on its own. Festool only actually makes this machine.
Okay.
Then with your biscuit jointers, you have a different variety of different makes. Okay, they all obviously use those biscuits which come in sizes of 0, 10, and 20.
Okay.
But those biscuits are sometimes too long for certain type of joints that you're actually doing. So this would actually be your Festool Domino Machine. They get them in 2 sizes. There is a bigger version of this as well to do bigger dominoes, but we're going to go through just this size machine and show you the features of them.
Yeah, let's have a look at the features.
So you have your domino machine over here, base in front, and this base can actually be tilted at different angles. You can actually see those little holes over there. Those are dedicated angles that you can actually set. Most popular ones you'll most probably use is either at 45 or flat down here at 90 degrees. You have a locking mechanism over here to lock it into any angle that you actually want. You have your depth setting on the machine as well. There's a little lever on the side over here which you undo. That's to lock. Undo that, and this can raise up to whatever height you actually want. On the side of the machine, you have a depth setting. Although you can, to actually set the depth of the machine, measure the thickness of your wood, and you want to get the center point. To get the center point, there is an arrow over here, and you can actually set, let's say you've measured 20 millimeters and it's now 10, you'll set it on 10 over here, and then lock the machine in place with this little lever. But you also have your depth setting on the side preset as well to certain thicknesses of wood. So what will actually happen over here, let's say we're setting it now at 16 millimeters thick, it will hit the plastic piece in the front over there to set your depth. Or if you want to go to a piece of wood that's 80 millimeters thick and you want to set your center point to 40, that will go up there. And now you can see that the base is actually raised as well. Okay, so first let's go over the depth settings or the width of cut. Now the nice thing with this domino machine, when you're actually doing a biscuit jointer, your width, the groove that you cut is always wider than the biscuit is. So there's always back and forwards play. And when you join your 2 pieces of wood together, when you're gluing, you're always going to get that movement from side to side, from back and forward. So you have to line it up to clamp it. This machine, and we'll show you when we do the demo, you either set it at the narrowest piece over there, which would be exactly the width of the domino. If you actually, that's normally your first hole to make sure that the 2 pieces of wood line up close in front over here. Or your next hole you want to do, you can actually make a little bit wider by changing that. That will mean that the cutter moves further from side to side. And there you've got 2 different stage settings for that. Normally I only use the one, which is actually the center point over there. So the dominoes you actually get come in different sizes. Okay, they range from 4, 5, 6, 8, and 10 millimeter, and you can see the difference between the size of a 5 millimeter and a 10 millimeter domino. The thicker you actually get, the longer the domino becomes, and that's what that measurement is actually for over here. So on your 5 millimeter domino, that length is about 30 millimeters long. So what I would then do is on the side over here, you actually push the button forward, green knob, you push forward, and that can go up or down. So we're going to use 15, so you'll actually push that in and lock that into 15 over there, lock that down, and now that cannot move. So now your cutter will plunge 15 millimeter into one piece of the wood, and on the other side 15 millimeter, and this will actually be able to fit in. Okay, so on your machine over here, we're going to switch the machine on now. So what the machine does come with dust extraction. It's always better to use dust extraction on the machine so you can actually suck all the dust out, okay, of the machine. And then we'll switch on and I'll show you how that works as well. So what now happens is that when I switch the machine on, the vacuum cleaner will automatically switch on as well. So, and when you switch the machine off, the vacuum cleaner will switch off. So it switch on, vacuum cleaner switches on. The noise you hear after I switched off is the vacuum cleaner has a delay to switch off. So any dust that's actually left in the machine actually gets drawn out of the machine completely. And then the machine will actually, the vacuum cleaner will switch off. So it's no need to actually go to your vacuum cleaner and switch it on and off all the time when you need to work. Okay. Your settings on the side over here for your width. This change This change has to be done while the machine is actually running, because sometimes when you switch it to the wider section, you cannot switch it back again because the gears aren't meshing properly. So you can change this width cut while the machine's running. Okay. There's no noise you heard while I change the gears. That means that you're not going to damage this while the machine's running as well. So there's no click or anything. So you shouldn't, with this specific machine, you don't have to be scared of changing it while it's actually running. That's the way the machine's built up. Okay, so next thing we're going to do over here is actually join two pieces of wood together. And I'll show you all the different joints, how to actually use it, how to line it up in front over here as well. So let's go to our wood. So we're going to take our two pieces of wood. Now remember, this will actually be the front section of the wood over here. So those are the two fronts. When we join that, you want those things to line up as best as possible. We then going to actually take your dominoes, and you will select where you're going to put your domino in. With the machine over here, in front of the machine, there are these two pins. So when we actually do our first, that's the older version. The newer version comes with these little levers over here, but it works basically the same. So your first hole that you're actually going to drill is not a measurement. That gets determined by the machine, because that pin is going to be pushed in when I push it up against the wood. That one is going to hit up against the front of the wood over here. So we're going to plunge that in, and that's actually going to the side over here. I still have to set the depth of that, so we'll actually get there right now. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is actually measure the thickness of the wood. That is about 30 millimeters in thickness. On the side of the machine, we're now going to raise, by undoing this little lever over here, we're going to raise the height so that, pull that back, so that your arrow over here sits on about 15 millimeters. It doesn't have to be exact, but you want to get close enough to the center of the wood. Okay, lock that in place with the lever over here. You now tilt your base, this base forward, because that has to rest on your wood over here. So when you now plunge in, the pin hits the wood. You basically grip hold of with the finger in front of you, push it up against the wood over there. We push down, switch the machine on, and we're going to make sure that this setting is on the narrowest piece, far left-hand side. So we make sure that that's on there, and then we're actually going to take that and plunge that bit in. But let's first do the markings of our dominoes again, just making sure where we actually want to put them. So we're doing 4. You only really need 3 for a piece of wood this size, but we're going to do 4 over here, just for demonstration purposes. So round about there, set it about there, pencil mark, the domino goes in, plus minus in the center of that domino. We then take our square, and I never like to draw my line to the end, because if you draw it all the way from that side to that side over there, you don't know which side that you're actually going to go into. So we're basically just going to, because remember the machine's coming from that side, so I'm just going to draw a line from there, sort of like from center to center point. We're going to start from the left-hand side over here. So we've set our height, we've set the base at 90 degrees, we've made sure that is actually the first hole that we're going to drill is going to be a perfect hole. And remember, we've also set the depth here to 15, because the domino here is 30 millimeters long. First hole we do is, you can clamp the piece of wood down if you want, or work on a rubber mat like this over here, which means that it won't move. If your wood is actually quite thin, and you actually may be joining sort of like a 16 millimeter piece of wood, it's better to make sure that the wood overlaps your table that you're working on, so that when plunging the machine in, that this base doesn't hit up against the side over here. On a thick piece like this, it can be over here, because the base doesn't go beyond the bottom of the wood. But anything thinner than this, obviously the base is actually going to go beyond the bottom of the wood, and you're going to heat up against your table and not plunge in deep enough. So first hole we're going to do over here is from the left hand side. We make sure that the pin is up against the side of the wood. Switch the machine on. Hold. And we've now made the hole sort of center. And as you can see over there, that domino just about fits in there. So it's going to be a really tight fit in there as well. The problem though is when you actually do the rest of the holes, if you keep on doing every hole that width, if the hole on this side and the hole on the other piece of wood is not at exactly the same point, you're going to have a problem. So the next hole we do is actually wider than that one. And here is where we actually change that setting over there to number 2. You can do it on the third section. I basically just use that one over there as well. So now what you're then going to do is actually line your machine up, because that is always going to be the center point of your hole. On the machine itself, you see these little arrows, okay? That arrow is where the pin is, that arrow is the left-hand pin, that arrow is where the right-hand pin is, and obviously that is dead center of your cut that you're doing. So all you're doing, I normally tilt it from the back, tilt the machine up this way, so that you don't, when you don't cut at an angle. Once you put, if you cut it at an angle like this, and obviously the two pieces of wood won't join together properly. So I normally tilt from the back, line up, hold my piece of wood. There's also a, that's mark over here on the machine. That's also the center point of your cutter over there. And as you can see, that hole is now wider, which means that these two holes will line that end of the wood up. The rest of them are just in case your hole on this piece of wood is actually a bit off center. There is space for this domino to move left or right, and the same on that piece of wood over there, and that way you can actually join much better. Before you do anything, it's always best to immediately set that to the perfect setting again. If you make a mistake and actually carry on with that, at least the first hole will be perfect. If you make the next hole perfectly sized again, you can always do that run again and make it wider. You can never reduce the size of the hole. So now we're going to take our next piece. That's the arrow we're starting from. Remember, we started on the left-hand side on the last piece. This one we have to start on the right-hand side. Now we use the right-hand side pin to push up against the side. Perfect hole. Change. Pencil walk. See, they're very loose over here on this one, and it's not because of the width, it's not because of the thickness, but because of the width that we've actually increased it. Let's get my other two dominoes. We're using the 5mm dominoes over here. Okay. Piece of wood over there. Make sure that the first one lines up, the rest will just line up as they need to be. Not exactly perfect, but close enough, but that gets it close. But now what you don't have is this movement. Once you've joined them together, that's your piece of wood over there.
Jeez.
Much easier. Now comes the thing is fine. So that can be done with a biscuit. That type of wood over there. You actually use 3 biscuits over here because of the width. Also remember that your domino, the domino that you're using, this, because of the depth that you're cutting in, this gives you 5 times more strength in joining than when using a biscuit. So the domino is a stronger joint. And remember, you can use the thicker dominoes as well, if it's a very thick table or very big piece of wood that you're joining, which then obviously the bigger the domino is, the stronger your joint's going to be as well. Also, the dominoes are made of, dominoes biscuits made of beech. As soon as you apply any moisture to that, the domino actually expands and it will make that joint a hell of a lot tighter as well. Okay, so as I said, you can actually do this by means of biscuit. Okay, but you're going to get to certain problems where you actually have a narrow piece of wood like this that you cannot do with a biscuit, purely because the wood is too narrow, and obviously when you cut, you'll cut from one end to the other and the biscuit's going to be too big. This is where the domino is actually quite good. That is an attachment that you actually get with the machine. This clips onto the base in front. You have locking mechanisms on the side of here to make sure that they don't slide. That actually moves forward, locks onto the machine.
The Festool thinks of everything.
Lots of attachments. We still have another one to actually do where for trimming, plunging into the edge.
Okay.
Okay, flip that over, and now you have two fences that can independently move where you actually want it to be. The best thing to do was obviously to find the center point of your piece of wood. Again, center point, you have these extra markings and the markings where the pins are at the end of the pin on the inside as well. Okay, so now I could have made a pencil mark over here in the center, basically here somewhere plus minus. Let's say we measured that, and that's now 15 millimeters in the center. Fortunately, this piece of wood is actually just the width between these two marks over here, so I can actually use them. What I would actually then do is take that, push my fence up against the side, my center mark over here. We push that closed, clamp it onto the wood, and now we actually lock that in place. Okay. Other piece of wood obviously would be exactly the same thickness, and it will actually go in here as well. I need to make sure that that's right over there. Okay, fine. We're going to draw an X on here, just to make sure, just in case the wood is not perfectly square, so we make sure that we actually cut the hole on the right side over there. Okay, and when we join them together, that goes over. Again, you don't have to worry about the piece of wood moving now because you've got that plastic piece clamping it. Hold on to your wood, switch, making sure that you're not cutting a wide piece over here because obviously that will be wider than you need. Lock that into place. Now we take our other piece of wood. I just want to make sure that they got it on the right side over there. That's got more play, so we're actually going to go this side. Do exactly the same here. Mark an X so that we know that that's the top, because obviously if you didn't set your depth perfectly and it's not dead center, then the wood will actually be higher on the one piece than the other piece. We now take our domino, just take one of these out, push that into the wood on the side, make sure we've got our two X's. That lines up here. Joint. That is a bit of set out, but that is because the two pieces of wood are different thicknesses. So obviously it will actually be higher. You have to make sure that both pieces of wood are the same thickness to actually get that to be level. Okay, so now you can see that this is where this machine is actually better than a biscuit jointer, because you can do narrow pieces of wood as well and actually join them together. And again, no movement from side to side or up and down that way as well. One other thing that we have to show you on the machine over here when joining pieces of wood together, because sometimes you actually do that sort of joint. Okay, so we're going to take this off. Again, we would make our pencil marks over here, but this is just basically showing you the attachment that we have to make sure that the machine doesn't move while you're actually plunging down. Normally when we actually have this cutting and we actually cut into the side over here, what you then have is just this little base that actually plunges down, but there's a chance of actually doing this. Okay, moving around. So the cut that you get into your piece of wood is not perfect. It's not absolutely straight. Therefore, the two pieces of wood won't join together perfectly. What Festool has actually done is they have another base over here is an extension piece, an extension foot if you want to call it that. We look for a nice flat piece of wood. The machine will now rest on that aluminium base of the aluminium. Okay, you take the plastic and you just push that down onto your surface. Okay, and now when you're plunging down, you can actually hold here. So that means that the machine will plunge down perfectly straight. So when we take that, we haven't done any measurement over here. So obviously you'll have to do the measurement to make sure that it's sort of center. That actually goes on here. You hold that in place, switch the machine on. That's the hole over there. And obviously now the domino will fit in there. Again, that hole could be wider if you want it to be, but that's where your domino will now fit in. Okay, and those are the features that you actually get with your Festool Domino Machine DF500.
So that's Warren. Warren is our on-site tool expert here at BPM Toolcraft. And you do site visits as well?
Yes, I do. My cell number will be posted on the website soon, so you can actually either contact Toolcraft or you can actually give me a call directly. If you need me to do any demos for your machines, then I will actually come out to site and actually do that for you as well. So obviously we do have people that actually have bought already and might need to know some more information. They don't have to bring the machines in. I'll be on site with them.
So visit our website at www.toolcraft.co.za. We are currently running a promotion on these domino machines as well as accessories. So go and check it out and enjoy the rest of the promotions we're having this May for Mayhem. Cheers. Thank you for watching BPM Toolcraft TV. Goodbye.
Until next time.